Hey book friends, welcome back to the channel. This is the second video in my series of my absolute favorite books in all the genres that I love. And last week's video was my favorite historical fiction books, and today's video is my favorite mystery thriller books. And so I am so excited to share all of these books with you today. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel if you're new here, or welcome back if you've been coming for a while. Like I said, we're going to talk all things mystery and thriller books today. I have a number of favorites I want to share with you. And like I was saying in the last video, I was spending some time thinking, reminiscing about some of my favorite books since I've been reading. And so some of these books are recent, so you might have heard me talk about them on my channel. But some of them are from a long time ago, and so I'm going to share them all with you. I tend to love mysteries that are very suspenseful, edge of your seat sort of mysteries. I love mysteries that are puzzles. I love mysteries that are closed door, isolated type mysteries. Then I also love medical type mysteries, thrillers, bioterrorist ones. I just enjoy that. And so I'm going to share some of those with you today as well. So let me just hop in. So these books are in no particular order. So I'm going to start with this one. So this is No Exit by Taylor Adams. I read this a year and a half ago. It is a very gripping book, a very anxiety-inducing book, but it just held my attention and I really wanted to know what happened. And so this story is about a girl who is driving home for Christmas or something like that, and she has to drive over a pass and there's a snowstorm. And she's in a car that's not very reliable. Her cell phone battery is dying, of course. And so she has to stop at this rest area and she has to spend the night there pretty much. So when she walks in, she meets kind of the cast of characters, and all is good and well until she goes back out to her car to try and find something, and she walks by a van and sees that there is a child in the back of the van. There's a child in the back of the van and it's freezing cold out, and so clearly something is wrong. And clearly someone is kidnapping this child. And so she has to walk back into the rest area knowing one of these people is a kidnapper. And it goes from there, and it's very intense. It is a little bit gory at times, and so I like to warn people about that because I feel like that can be a little off-putting. But if you know it's coming, I cringed definitely at a number of parts, but that did not take away from the overarching storyline that was just really good, really entertaining. So I highly recommend this one if you're in the mood for that type of a thriller book. Maybe I'll just stick with thrillers for right now. So I have another one. So this is The Final Girls by Riley Sager. Oh my gosh, guys, I loved this book. So I read this for a reading vlog last summer, I think. I made a vlog reading all of the Riley Sager books, and this was one of them, and this turned out to be my favorite Riley Sager. So to spoil that vlog a little bit, if you haven't seen it, I will link it above in case anybody's interested in watching it. It was on my other channel before I split out into this channel, but this book is so good. So it's about these girls, final girls, and these are girls who have survived a mass killing. And in the main character's case, it was her and her group of friends at this cabin, isolated cabin, and the night goes badly. And she is the only one left standing. Everybody else is slaughtered, but she can't remember. She can't remember what happens. It's all a blank for her. And so that was her past, and now her and a number of other final girls are kind of in contact, and then it seems like something bad is happening. Things are happening to these girls, and it looks like they're being targeted. And so it starts the whole thing rolling again, especially for this girl who just wants a normal life. But oh my gosh, it is so good. I really enjoyed all the twists. I enjoyed her character. I just wanted to know. I wanted to know what happened to her. I wanted to know what is currently happening to her. So I read this book so fast. So I loved this book. Another book I just recently read, December, January, something like that. I read They Never Learn, and I can't quite remember the author, but this book was so interesting. It took a really interesting premise, which is that you follow in the mind of a female serial killer, a woman who is after seeking justice for other women. She goes after rapists and abusers and just terrible men, and you follow along as she does that, and then things start to unravel in her life and you just learn what's going on there. And it was one of those books where you're just kind of in the gray, or at least I was, because I was rooting for her, right? A serial killer. It made me feel bad that I wanted her to not get caught and all these things, but I thought that was just a testament to the author's writing, that they could pull you in such a way that you cared about this character, even though she's kind of a bad character. So I highly enjoyed this book. So I recommend that one. We'll move on to mysteries. Okay, guys, I have some good ones here. I'm just going to talk about the one that I have been talking about nonstop on this channel lately, and that's this book, The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I loved this book. I loved it so much. It is very much of a puzzle-based mystery with a little bit of suspense. It is a YA mystery book. So, what is it about? So it's about this girl who is kind of down on her luck. She is like a teenager, so like 16, 17, something like that. And she's living with her sister because her mom recently died. They're not doing well. And then she gets contacted that she has inherited some money from this really rich man in Texas. And she doesn't know him. She doesn't know why she is in his will. But she goes there and finds out that she has inherited everything. Like he hopped over his children and grandchildren for the most part, and gave all of his money, all of his property, all of his stuff to her. And then you start to follow what happens there, because she is legally obligated to live at this house for a year in order to get her full inheritance. And she has to live with his grandsons. There's 4 of them about her age. It was so much fun. Mainly because the man who left her all this money, he's just a really unique person. Like, he likes to set up puzzles. Like, his whole house is a puzzle. Like, there's all these mazes and secret passageways and all these things. Like, he has left little tidbits and clues for his grandson and for her. And they kind of are in the process of trying to figure out why he did what he did. Why did he bring her on? Who is she? Like, what's the purpose of all this? So, oh my gosh, it's so good. I read this one and the second one really quick, and the next book is coming out this summer, which is August of 2022. Oh, so I'm so excited about this. All right, as for other mystery books that I love this book. So I am on an Agatha Christie kick lately. Like, I helped host a readathon about Agatha Christie, and it all came from this book. This is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. It is a fantastic closed room, isolated island type mystery where these people are brought to the island and they don't know each other. They don't know why they were brought there. And then they start being picked off one by one. Like, they start dying and then they start suspecting each other. They start trying to figure out, is there someone else on the island? What's going on? It's such a fun ride. It is so clever. And when you get to the end, you're like, what? And then more of it gets revealed and you're like, whoa, it's just mind-blowing. I haven't read a book quite like this. I read a lot of books that are similar to this, but they don't pull it off like this book did. So, such a good book. If you don't pick up any other mystery this year, I highly recommend picking up that one. Okay, as for a totally different vein of mystery thriller, I actually don't even know where to put most of the books that Stuart Turton writes, and so this is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I loved this book. Actually, I think it's the only book that I've ever done a book review. I did it on my old channel. I'll link it again because this one just was fascinating. It's a fascinating book. And I know some people hate it, but I loved it. I loved the slight confusion of it. It's about this man who is at this mansion for this, I think it's like an anniversary party or something like that. And the idea is he knows that Evelyn is going to die that night, and he is there to stop it. He's there to identify the killer and break the cycle, and the cycle being that every day he wakes up in the body of another guest, another character in this book. He learns new things, he learns new clues, but what is kind of trippy about this book, other than the fact that he wakes up in a different body every day, is it messes with the timeline a lot. So he may wake up in the body of somebody 2 days earlier, or maybe an hour before she dies. And so you're trying the whole time to put together the timeline from all the different people's points of views, and it's complicated and confusing, and I loved it. I loved it. I do recommend reading it quickly, otherwise you will get lost with the cast of characters and all the jumping and all the clues and all that stuff, but I love this book. I actually think I might reread this book now that I'm thinking about how much I loved it, and I want to be able to dive back into it now that I know the end. Maybe I'll reread this, but oh, I love this book so much. It is a really fun book. Just be prepared for confusion and you'll love it. Oh, I hope you'll love it. It's really good. Okay, another one of my favorite books is this book, and I read this a long time ago, so this is like an oldie but goodie for me. It is a bioterrorist type thriller. It's called The Cobra Event by Richard Preston. Really, anything by him is more along these medical thriller type books. This one was so interesting though. It had to do with this disease, this pathogen that was first discovered in this homeless man that like died on a subway platform, and then it got transmitted to this girl who was in class, and then she developed symptoms, and then she died, and then it brings in kind of the CDC and the pathologists and all of this, and they're trying to track this disease, but then they're finding out that someone did it on purpose. And so then they get like the police involved and they're trying to catch this guy. And I just remember that it was so intriguing and like riveting for me. Like I wanted to keep reading. I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, what if this actually happened? It was just so extreme. It's definitely extreme, but I loved it. And a lot of you know that I have my PhD in microbiology, so I'm drawn to these kinds of things. So you can kind of expect that from my list of books. And that'll lead me to the next one. So I'll just do both of my medical dramas. And this book is by Robin Cook. It's called Vector. And this is part of the Jack Stapleton, Laurie Montgomery series. They are medical examiners that sometimes go detective. So the writing style in this is a little choppy. I'll give you that. So know that going in. But I find the subject matter so interesting. So this was about a bioterrorist threat, but it was told a bit from the point of view of the Russian defector. He was a scientist who defected to the US, and then there was some issues, and he is basically trying to build a level 4 lab in his basement where he's growing and propagating botulism basically. And so it's just really interesting. And then the MEs are starting to see these bodies come into their morgue, and they're suspecting something might be happening. There might be a bioterrorist threat on the horizon. It's just a really fun book. I enjoyed it. It's one of like, I think 6 in the series, and I have read a number of the books in the series, and I just really enjoy them. They're just really entertaining books, so it made my favorites just because I always think about it. And maybe it's because I know so much about the bacteria and the different pathogens, but anyway, so that's on my list. And the last book on my list is this one, and that is Still Life by, I believe it's Louise Penny. I can't quite remember, but I'll put up a picture. And this is the first book in a huge series of the detective Gamache, I think, as he is in this small town in Canada, and there's been a murder, and he's called in, and it goes from there. It's a very slow-paced murder mystery. It is more reminiscent of, say, like an Agatha Christie than a thriller mystery of the more recent kind, but it's so good. I really enjoyed it. I felt like it was clever once you figured out why the person murdered the person, if you will. I felt like the writing was very atmospheric. It's definitely slow going. It's definitely a murder mystery, but I really liked it. So I highly recommend that. I do need to continue on with the series. I've only read the first, but I hear you don't have to read them in order, so I want to pick up more. So that's that book. So those are my favorites, guys. Those are the ones that I think back on that I think are just really clever, and I just loved. I loved these either thrillers or mystery books, and so I would love to know some of your favorites. This is my request for recommendations. Please put them down below on both thriller and mystery books, especially those like puzzly books or lock room mysteries. I just love them. So please let me know if you have any good recommendations. And otherwise, if you love these kind of favorite books of all time type videos, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. And otherwise, I will see you guys in the next book video. Okay guys, take care.